I wake up in the middle of the night and the first thing I do is reach for my phone. It's not on the nightstand. It's not where I left it. My heart races. Because if it moved on its own, it means something in this house is moving with me. And that shouldn't be possible. But it happens. Every single night. And today you're going to discover why this is happening to you too. It sounds like paranoia. It sounds like the delusion of a tired mind. But when you start noticing the pattern, when you write down every object that changes position, when you leave invisible marks and they disappear, you understand that you're not alone. And the scariest part isn't what's moving. It's discovering who's moving it. Because sometimes, the answer is inside your own head, and that's the most terrifying truth of all. I'm going to tell you a story that completely changed my perception of memory, of reality, and of the deadly tricks our brain can play on us. A story that begins with objects that move on their own and ends with a scientific discovery that can explain why you swear you left your keys in one place and they appear in another. Why you're absolutely certain you locked the door, but it's open. Why you put the remote on the couch and it's in the kitchen 5 minutes later. For 3 months, I documented everything. I photographed objects before going to sleep. I marked positions with tape on the floor. I placed my phone always in the same spot on the table, screen facing up, exactly 2 inches from the edge. Every morning, it was somewhere else. Sometimes fallen on the floor. Sometimes on the other side of the bed. Once, I found it inside the nightstand drawer. A drawer I was certain I hadn't opened. I thought about sleepwalking. I installed a camera to record myself sleeping. I watched 8 hours of footage. I didn't move. I remained in the same position all night long, deep breathing, heavy sleep. But at 4:17 in the morning, in one specific frame, my phone simply wasn't on the table anymore. Previous frame, it was there. Next frame, it had disappeared. 15 frames later, it reappeared on the floor. The camera didn't capture movement. Didn't capture my hand. Didn't capture anything. I started researching. I found hundreds of identical reports. People swearing that objects move on their own. Entire online communities dedicated to documenting the phenomenon. Some call it the Mandela effect applied to physical space. Others talk about glitches in the matrix of reality. The more spiritual ones mention entities, presences, energies. But the scientific truth is even more disturbing than any paranormal explanation. There's a rare neurological condition called spatial confabulation. Your brain literally invents memories about where you placed things. It's not forgetting. It's not distraction. It's active creation of false memories so vivid, so real, so detailed that you'd bet your life on them. You remember perfectly placing your wallet on the kitchen counter. You can describe the movement of your hand, the sound it made touching the marble, even the tactile sensation of your fingers releasing the object. But that memory never happened. You left your wallet in the car. Your brain fabricated the entire sequence. The problem starts when these confabulations become frequent. When you can no longer trust your own perception. When the line between what's real and what your brain constructed becomes so blurred that you start questioning everything. Did I lock the door? Did I turn off the stove? Did I take my medication? And in extreme cases, this constant doubt can lead to paralyzing anxiety, compulsive checking, and a deep fear of losing control of your own mind. I met a man named Ricardo who went through this. For 6 months, he was absolutely certain that someone was breaking into his house during the night. Objects changed positions. Clothes he had stored clean would be wrinkled in the morning. Food he was certain he had bought disappeared from the fridge. He installed extra locks, cameras, alarms. Nothing captured any intruder. But the objects kept moving. Ricardo started sleeping less and less, obsessed with catching the invader. He spent hours analyzing footage, searching for evidence, trying to prove to himself he wasn't crazy. Until one night, he forgot to turn off the camera pointing at the living room. And at 3 in the morning, he appeared in the recording. He woke up, got up, walked to the kitchen, reorganized objects, moved the couch a few inches, got food from the fridge, ate, went back to bed. And he remembered nothing. Complex sleepwalking associated with lacunar amnesia. He performed elaborate actions during sleep and his brain registered no memory of those actions. In the morning, he saw the results of his own nocturnal movements and attributed them to a non-existent invader. His brain then created narratives to explain the changes. It confabulated intruders, conspiracies, persecution, all to make sense of what he couldn't remember. The diagnosis came after a complete polysomnography. Ricardo had micro-awakenings during the night, episodes where his body woke up but his consciousness remained asleep. In these states, he could perform complex tasks, make decisions, even have simple conversations, but formed no memories. It was like an autopilot taking control, performing actions that seemed intentional but had no conscious record. But Ricardo's story is just the tip of the iceberg. Recent research in neuroscience shows that our brain falsifies far more than we imagine. Studies with functional magnetic resonance imaging demonstrate that when you try to remember where you placed something, your brain doesn't retrieve a faithful recording of the event. It reconstructs the memory in real time, filling gaps with inferences, assumptions, expectations. It's as if each memory were a puzzle that your brain assembles on the spot, using real pieces mixed with invented ones. A fascinating experiment conducted at Stanford University proved this. They asked participants to place objects in specific locations in a room while being filmed. A week later, they asked them to describe where they had placed each object. 68% of participants reported vivid memories of having placed at least one object in a completely different location from the real one. When confronted with the footage, many insisted the cameras were wrong, that the recordings had been edited, that their memories were more reliable than visual evidence. This raises a terrifying question about the nature of personal reality. If we can't trust our own memories about simple and recent events, like placing an object on a table, how can we trust anything? How many of your most absolute certainties are actually elaborate confabulations? How many fights have you had with someone because you swore the other person said or did something that never happened? How many important decisions have you made based on memories your brain fabricated? There's also the phenomenon of inattentional blindness. Your brain literally erases information it considers irrelevant. You place your phone somewhere while your attention is focused on something else. Your brain registers the action so superficially that it doesn't create an accessible memory. Minutes later, you look for your phone and swear you didn't put it there. Because for you, consciously, that action never happened. It was executed on autopilot, without involvement of your conscious attention. A clinical case documented in 2018 involved a 42-year-old woman who insisted her family was moving objects around to make her think she was going crazy. She accused her husband, her children, even involved the police. She installed cameras throughout the house. The footage showed that no one touched anything. But it also showed something extraordinary. She herself moved the objects repeatedly throughout the day, during everyday tasks, without ever consciously registering these actions. She'd pick up a glass, drink water, put it in a different place, and seconds later wouldn't remember doing it. The diagnosis was mild cognitive dissociation caused by chronic stress. Her brain was so overloaded with worries and anxiety that it started executing automatic actions without creating conscious records. It's like driving home and not remembering any part of the route. You were on autopilot. The difference is that this had become her default state, affecting even simple actions like placing objects in places. And here's the part that made me question everything. After discovering this research, I did a test myself. I installed a hidden camera in my living room. I spent a week living normally. At the end of each day, I wrote down where I was certain I had left 5 specific objects. Then I compared my notes with the footage. In 7 days, I got the exact location right only 23 times out of 35 possible. Almost 40% of my memories were wrong. I saw in the footage my own hand placing an object in one place, but swore I had placed it in another. The most disturbing discovery came when I noticed a pattern. My memory errors weren't random. I consistently remembered having placed objects in more logical, more organized, more convenient places than where I had actually left them. My brain was editing my memories to create a more ideal version of reality. A version where I was more careful, more organized, more intentional than I really was. This means we live in a reality constantly edited by our own mind. We don't see the world as it is. We see an improved, adjusted, optimized version by our brain. And when physical reality contradicts this edited version, we experience the shock, the confusion, the feeling that something impossible happened. Objects don't move on their own. Our memory of where we placed them was never reliable from the start. So what do you do with this information? How do you live knowing you can't completely trust your own perception? The answer lies in accepting the imperfection of human memory and creating external verification systems. Take photos of where you place important things. Always use the same locations for essential objects. Create checklists for critical tasks. And most importantly, be humble enough to accept that you can be wrong, even when you're absolutely certain of something. Because in the end, the scariest thing isn't objects that move on their own. It's realizing that the ghost in your house has always been you. You on autopilot. You dissociated. You creating false memories to fill gaps you didn't even know existed. You living in a reality that your own brain constantly edits without warning you. Today, when I wake up and my phone isn't where I thought I left it, I don't panic. I take a deep breath and accept that I probably placed it somewhere else and don't remember. I check the most likely locations. And I find it. I always find it. Because it never moved on its own. I just never left it where I thought I had. My brain invented a more convenient memory than reality. And maybe that's true for far more things in your life than you imagine. How many certainties do you carry that are actually elaborate confabulations? How many absolute truths are just edits your brain made of reality? If this scares you, you're starting to understand. If this fascinates you, you're ready to question everything.